In today's video, I want to show you something many people often ask me about, how I manage all of my aviaries every day. Welcome back to Dream Birds Aviary. At the moment I have 19 aviaries, and each one has different birds. Some have budgies, some have cockatiels, some have lovebirds, ringnecks, Alexandrines, finches, and other parrots. Each aviary has its own routine, its own pairs, and its own behavior. People sometimes ask me, how do you manage so many birds? How do you keep everything organized and calm? So today I'll show you my daily routine, how I check the birds, how I keep the aviaries clean and organized, and how I make sure everything stays peaceful for the birds. Running multiple aviaries takes time, patience, and consistency, but when the environment is calm and the routine is stable, the birds do very well. So in this video, I'll walk you through the aviaries and show you how I manage everything step by step during a normal day in the aviary. Every day in the aviary usually starts the same way. The first thing I like to do is a general check of all the aviaries before doing anything else. When you have many birds and different species, it's very important to take a moment just to observe them. I walk around slowly and look at each aviary to make sure everything looks normal. I check simple things first. Are the birds active? Are they moving around normally? And are the pairs sitting calmly on their perches? These small observations can tell you a lot about how the birds are feeling. For example, when birds are healthy and comfortable, you'll see them flying, talking to each other, or sitting relaxed on the perches. If something looks unusual, it's easier to notice it early when you take time to observe. I also look at the food trays and water bowls to see if everything is still clean and in good condition. With multiple aviaries, keeping an eye on these small details helps prevent problems later. So before I start feeding or cleaning, I always take this first moment to quietly watch the birds and see how the whole aviary is behaving. After the first general look around, I start checking each aviary one by one. Because every aviary has different birds, I like to give each section a little bit of attention. For example, some aviaries have budgies, which are usually very active and flying around all the time. Other aviaries may have larger parrots like Alexandrines or ringnecks, and their behavior can be a little calmer. When I walk past each aviary, I watch how the birds interact with each other. Are the pairs sitting together? Are they feeding normally? Are they moving comfortably around the perches? This also helps me understand if any bird might be feeling stressed or if a pair needs a little extra attention. Another important thing I check is the condition of the perches and the general space inside the aviary. Birds need enough room to move, stretch their wings, and feel comfortable in their environment. When everything looks clean, organized, and the birds are relaxed, that's usually a good sign that the aviary is working well for them. So this second step of my daily routine is simply going through the aviaries slowly and making sure every group of birds looks healthy and settled. After checking all the aviaries, the next important part of the routine is feeding the birds. Each species has slightly different feeding habits, so I try to make sure that every aviary has the right type of food available. Some birds prefer seeds, some enjoy fresh vegetables or fruit, and others have their own favorite things they like to eat. When feeding multiple aviaries, it's important to keep the routine consistent. Birds feel much more comfortable when they know when food will arrive and when their trays will be refreshed. I usually start by removing any old food or empty seed shells, then I refill the trays with fresh food. At the same time, I also check the water bowls to make sure the water is clean and fresh. Clean food and water are very important for keeping birds healthy, especially when you have many aviaries and many birds to care for. Once the food and water are refreshed, you can often see the birds become more active again as they come down to eat and interact with each other. Once the food and water are ready, I like to spend a little time just watching the birds while they eat. This is actually one of the best moments to observe their behavior, because birds often interact a lot during feeding time. You might see pairs sitting together, some birds sharing food, and others moving around the aviary looking for their favorite spots. For me, these small moments are very important because they tell me how comfortable the birds are in their environment. When birds feel relaxed and safe, their behavior is usually calm and natural. Sometimes I also notice interesting little details, like how certain pairs stay close together or how different species behave slightly differently inside their own aviaries. Watching the birds quietly also helps me understand them better over time. The more you observe, the easier it becomes to recognize when everything is normal and when something might need attention. Another very important part of managing many aviaries is keeping everything clean and well maintained. After feeding and observing the birds, I usually take some time to check the aviaries for anything that needs cleaning. This can include removing leftover food, checking the floor area, and making sure the perches and trays are still in good condition. Cleanliness is very important because it helps keep the birds healthy and prevents problems before they start. When you have multiple aviaries, doing small cleaning tasks regularly is much easier than leaving everything for one big clean later. A little bit of maintenance every day keeps the whole aviary system running smoothly. While cleaning, I also take the opportunity to check that the aviary structure itself is secure, the mesh, the doors, and the perches. Safety is always the first priority when keeping birds. By doing these small daily checks, the aviary stays organized, and the birds continue living in a clean and comfortable environment. Another part of the daily routine is checking the breeding pairs and the nest boxes. When you have birds that are breeding, it's important to keep an eye on them, but at the same time not disturb them too much. I usually just observe quietly from outside the aviary to see how the pairs are behaving. Sometimes you can see the birds going in and out of the nest box, or the pair sitting close together near the entrance. These small behaviors can tell you that the pair is comfortable and settled. I avoid opening the nest boxes too often because too much disturbance can stress the birds. Instead, I prefer to watch their behavior and only check the nest when it's really necessary. Each pair is different, so part of managing multiple aviaries is understanding the personality and behavior of each group of birds. By checking calmly every day, you can notice small changes and make sure everything continues to run smoothly in the aviary. Another interesting part of managing many aviaries is that every type of bird behaves a little differently. For example, budgies are usually very active and social, flying around and interacting with each other all the time. Cockatiels are often a little calmer, but they also enjoy moving around and exploring their space. Larger parrots like Alexandrines or Indian ringnecks can sometimes behave differently again. They may spend more time observing their surroundings, sitting on higher perches, or interacting closely with their partner. Because each species has its own personality and habits, I try to pay attention to how they behave in their own aviaries. This helps me make sure that the environment suits them and that they feel comfortable where they are. Managing multiple aviaries means understanding these differences and making small adjustments when necessary so that every bird has the best possible environment. When you have many aviaries and many birds, one of the most important things is keeping a consistent routine. Birds quickly become familiar with daily patterns. When feeding, cleaning, and checking the aviaries happen around the same time every day, the birds feel more relaxed and secure. You can often notice that the birds start expecting the routine. For example, when they see me walking toward the aviary with food trays, many of them immediately become more active and come closer to the feeding area. This consistency helps reduce stress and keeps the environment calm for the birds. It also makes it easier for me to manage all the aviaries, because everything follows the same simple structure each day. Even though there are many birds and many aviaries, having a steady routine keeps the whole system organized and helps the birds stay healthy and comfortable. After the routine work is done, checking the birds, feeding them, and making sure everything is clean, I also like to spend a few quiet moments simply watching the aviary. This is one of the most enjoyable parts of keeping birds. You can sit back and observe how the birds interact with each other, how they move around their space, and how comfortable they feel in the environment. Sometimes you see small behaviors that make aviary life very interesting, pairs sitting close together, birds calling to each other, or simply relaxing on their favorite perches. These calm moments remind me why I enjoy keeping birds so much. Even though managing many aviaries requires time and work, the reward is seeing the birds healthy, active, and comfortable in their space. Keeping many birds across different aviaries is something I take very seriously. When you have a larger setup like this, it's not only about enjoying the birds, it's also about responsibility. Each aviary needs regular care, attention, and patience to make sure the birds stay healthy and comfortable. This means checking them every day, making sure they have fresh food and water, keeping the environment clean, and watching their behavior closely. Sometimes small changes in behavior can tell you a lot about how a bird is feeling, so observing them regularly becomes a very important part of the routine. Over time you start to understand each group of birds better, and managing the aviaries becomes more natural. For me, the goal is always the same: to provide a safe and peaceful environment where the birds can live comfortably and behave naturally. Thank you for watching Dream Birds Aviary. I hope you enjoyed seeing how I manage my daily routine with all the aviaries and the different birds. Keeping birds is something that requires time, patience, and care, but it's also very rewarding to see them healthy and comfortable in their environment. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you again in the next video.
Look. Wait. Look. Wait. Come on. Look. Come on.
Come here.
Nah, okay. Take. No. Take. Yeah, take for me. Take. Yeah. Take. Oh, no. I need sitting. Go. I'll give you more.